let's add a second product into our products table. So I'm currently connected to the validation database. I'm using the query tool. Remember, to get that window back up, you can right-click on your validation database and click on Query Tool. So to insert another product into the products table, I'll do Insert into Products. And then this time around, we are only going to specify the name, department, and the weight of a product. I'm going to insert values of, how about pants, put into the clothes department, and I'll add in a weight of 3 pounds or kilograms or whatever it is. So notice that this time around, we are not specifying a price at all, anywhere. Let's run this and see what happens. Okay, well, it looks like the insertion was successful. And now if we go and inspect our products table, so we can either take a look up here at our table browsing window, or if you've closed that one, remember, you can find the validation database, go to Schemas, Public, Tables, and then right-click on Products, and hit View Edit Data All Rows. So we can now see very easily that for our second record right here, we've got a name of pants, department of clothes, and a price of null. Now, is that a problem right there? Well, who knows? It entirely could be. A price of null means a price of nothing. That could have some really interesting bugs somewhere else inside of our application. It might mean that a user could purchase a pair of pants for no money at all. Perhaps there's some part in our application that interprets null as $0 or something like that. Without a doubt, we should probably have a price defined, even if it's some really, really high price. So we should probably figure out some way to add in some validation to this table. We should figure out some way to make sure that anytime we insert a new row, price must be defined. We must provide a value for it. And while we're doing that, we might want to make sure that we have to provide a value for all the other columns as well. So for name, department, and weight. So how would we do that? Okay, so just to be clear right now, we are inserting a new row into products, but we don't have a price. And so the default value, if we don't define that price, is null. Probably not what we want. So to make sure that we do not provide any values that are undefined and end up with null, we can set up what is called a null constraint. There are two ways we can apply a null constraint to a table. We can either update the create table statement. So notice that on price right here, we say price integer, not null. That means that if we ever try to insert or update a value or a row inside this table where the price will end up as null, we'll end up with an error. So we can add this rule onto a particular column, either when we first create the table or after the table was created. So right now we've already created the table, and I would not want to have to delete it and lose all the data we've already got in there just to recreate it and set up this not null flag. It is entirely possible that we might create the table, add a bunch of data, and then only realize later on that we want to add in not null. So to accommodate for that, we can update the configuration of a column by writing something like what you see over here. So we can write out alter table, which means that we want to make a change to the structure of a table that already exists. We can then say that we want to alter a column, which means that we want to change the configuration of some column that already exists inside the table. In this case, we want to alter the configuration of price. And in this case, we want to set up a constraint of not null, which means that we should never be able to insert a null value into this column. Now you'll notice that I've got under here gotcha, and that's because there's a gotcha around running this little bit of SQL right here. Let's try to run it right now. We're going to end up with an error, and we'll try to figure out why that is. All right, so I'm going to go back over to pgadmin. I'm going to open up my query tool once again. So remember, you should have the tabs open on your top bar right now, and you can click between them to see either our products table or the query tool. And we're going to try to update the configuration of the price column in the products table. We can do that with alter table, products, alter column, and then the name of the column that we want to update. In this case, it's price. And then finally, we're going to set not null, like so. All right, so let's run this. Like I said, we might end up with an error. So take a look at that. This is really a big gotcha. The error itself says column price contains null values. That means that we cannot put a constraint on the price column yet because there's already null values inside there. So in other words, we can't add a rule to this price column and say that there can't be null values because there's already one right there. So we have to somehow deal with all the null values inside this table before we can apply a constraint to it. This is actually a little bit of a headache sometimes. Sometimes you're going to decide that you want to edit a column and you're going to realize, oh wait, I can't make any changes to it because if I make any change to any rules around it, well, the data that's already inside that column is going to violate one of those rules. And so you have to figure out some way to deal with this. So there are two options available to us. We can either try to find all the rows inside this table that have a price of null and delete them. After we delete all those rows, we can then run this alter table command once again, and because there's no null values inside a price, it should succeed. Alternatively, we could write out a little bit of SQL that will find all the different rows inside this table with the price of null and update it to some other value. Maybe we could update all the prices with a null value to something like 99999. And then that would maybe be assigned to us that, oh, hey, we need to go ahead and update these at some point. Or alternatively, we could just try to go through, find all the prices of null, and then manually update them one at a time with an actual price. So a couple of different options there. In this case, let's try to find all of the different rows inside this table with a price of null. We'll update them to some temporary value so that then we can apply this new constraint right here. Let's take a look at how we do that in the next video, just because this one is getting a little bit long.